Would you rather be a victim or have a career you love? Being a victim is easy. We play the job application lottery day after day, praying for the big jackpot, or even just a politely written no thank you. We lament the lack of job security while doing little to make ourselves stand out. And we get jealous of those who have better luck than us instead of getting curious about how they made things happen for themselves. Taking ownership of your career is harder, but way less painful. And Loren Greiff, this week's guest on the DesuckifyWork Podcast, is here to guide us. Loren is the founder of Portfolio Rocket, offering career coaching to folks at the VP level and above. Her mission is to end career victimization. Now, how in the world does she do that? Well, she helps you leverage the hidden job market, where 85% of the jobs actually are. She helps you see that job security is a myth and focus on adaptability instead. She helps you uncover what makes you remarkably different in a cut and paste world. And she helps you build a pipeline of people cheering for you, eager to connect you to people and opportunities that never make it to LinkedIn or Indeed. Loren is no victim. She knows her stuff, and it's stuff we all need to hear. Okay, Loren Greiff, welcome to the DesuckifyWork Podcast.
Yay, I'm here to desuckify with you, for you, about you.
I'm excited to do it.
Audience.
I know you're out there already doing a lot of it, so maybe we can start by giving everyone a chance to get to know what you're doing for work and maybe a little bit about how you came to be doing it.
Sure thing. And thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for asking and preparing so many questions and not making it too heavy-handed. So my name is Loren Greiff. I say that very deliberately because the pronunciation could easily turn into grief, and that's the last thing I'm here to cause. So my reason for being and what I do on a daily basis, not only to help desuckify work for me, but also for the other folks that we work with, is really ensure that whether it's their career per se or their job search specifically with more urgency, they are going about that process with less wear and tear by relying on outdated systems. So the more you rely on something that doesn't work, some people want to, default that and say, hey, that's the definition of insanity.
Yep.
But oftentimes, what's not fair is you don't know what else to do instead. And so if you're going to quit doing this, then you need to know what you should be picking up. And so much of what we specialize in is unconventional strategies, primarily within the hidden job market, which is not like a new idea. Like, let me be honest, right? Ooh, hidden job market. What is that? There's really no mystery to it. And I'm going to debunk it right here.
Okay.
Hidden job market essentially is just jobs that are not posted. Jobs that are not posted online, jobs that don't live in literally the small percentage, roughly 15% at most, of the available jobs that there are.
Wow.
Like, can you believe it? All these job postings, what do they call them? Ghost posts and all these things that trap you into this black hole. Well, if I spend all my time there, chances are not only am I going to get pretty pissed off, I'm going to feel very depleted, rejected, exhausted, frustrated, isolated, depressed. And before you know it, I got the case of the F-its. And I'm like, oh my God, this whole job search thing sucks.
Yep. You just pretty much described the vibe of my LinkedIn feed most days, because I think people are in it so deeply right now and feeling that frustration,
Right. And so we provide the solution to the other non-sucky areas, right? And that really capitalizes on the best investment you will ever make for your career, come now, come 100 years from now. And that's your network and the people behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The currency, the speed in which those opportunities not only show up, but that you can create for yourself are like a flywheel.
Mm.
It does not have to be difficult. It does not have to be spammy. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve because you're going to break this bad habit. Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. But if you continue to do that, what you're going to end up having is a pipeline of people who are cheering for you. And also in that process, you have a responsibility to really go through some self-auditing to understand they're not going to open up your network just because you tap them on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
They need to know how you're going to help them and how you're going to help the people that they're going to introduce you to.
Mm-hmm.
What's in it for them? Because opening up your network, that's their gold. And they're there to protect their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So before you get out there and start tapping anybody on the shoulder and say, hey, can you introduce me? Or I need your help, or da, 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 da. Know what your specific point of difference is and how you can help that next company. Experience is not enough.
Yeah.
That's table stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really help get into the nooks and crannies so that people are able to go into the marketplace where they are meeting the market, not being clobbered by it, where they are literally in partnership with all of the opportunities that are available to themselves, which requires some self-awareness, a really robust but also flexible strategy. That's what we do. But more importantly, as we get older, and I'm 60, so I say that with like not even a spat of an eyelash, we need to upskill, reskill. We need to be relevant.
Yeah.
Easy thing to say. I have ageism. Oh no, you're kidding, right?
Yeah.
The world isn't out to get you because you're older. The world doesn't care because you're not relevant.
That's such a interesting word, relevant, right? Because I think we all want to believe we're relevant, and maybe we're clinging to some experience we had where we felt relevant and therefore believe we are always relevant. How good of a job do you find that people who come to you, how well are they understanding what makes them relevant? Or is there a lot of work for them to figure out that there's something underneath?
Well, I think that's an excellent point, right? What is relevance? I mean, in this context, right? What does it mean to be relevant in the market?
Yeah.
And, in full fairness, hand to heart, we don't know what we don't know. I mean, I don't know jack about whatever that is. This is our area. This is my area. We will say, I am a student of the market. I am studying the market, like literally, 27/8. I am eating it up because it's a dynamic. It's dynamic. It's affected by so many factors, internal and external.
Yeah.
So wrapping your head around this does require a lot of commitment in order for me to serve our people better, our audience better, anybody who's listening. In order for me to serve you right now, I cannot come to this interview or any others without knowing my shit.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. So that's a responsibility that I think is very important. So relevance, back to your great question, relevance is really more about shorthand, staying of the moment, more literal translation. Specifically, what that would mean in the world of your job search. First is you are not waiting, you are creating opportunities. No passivity, waiting for things to happen, this, that, the other. We are in an entrepreneurial type of job, period, right? Fortune will favor the bold.
Yep.
You don't see it out there, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know that there's a need. You see that there's a hole in that organization. Go create that job. Not wait for a recruiter to call you, or I don't see it. That's passive.
Yeah.
Other relevant areas are what we like to call sticky storytelling. Sticky storytelling are things that would sound something like this. I'll give you an example. But before I do that, I'm going to give you the opposite of a sticky story.
Okay.
So you can hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put good money, maybe even a coffee on this. Once you hear this, your head is going to go, So a very non-sticky story that kind of slips away that everybody else says is, I'm a proven executive with 20 years of experience. I have a 10-year track record. I'm a seasoned executive. I see your head nodding.
Who isn't?
Right? Who isn't?
Yeah.
That is a script that we all, to some degree, learn the way that most of us probably don't sign off their emails sincerely.
Yeah.
Right? Dear sir or madam.
Right.
Sincerely.
Right.
And so those are dead giveaways, even like immediate tells that you are not relevant.
Yeah.
So you hear that, you're like, this person is just like, from another era.
Yeah, there. And it just feels like wallpaper.
I'm going to tell the sticky story in context of this conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you this question. So, when was the last time you finished a chapstick?
I'm not even sure, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever had a chapstick?
Yeah.
Like maybe more than one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I bring this to light because you will never forget what I'm about to say. It's sticky.
Okay.
The chances of you finishing a chapstick are less than 1%. That's the same percentage as getting your resume or any application through an applicant tracking system.
Wow.
That's how small the percentage is. That's how infinitesimal that is. And that's all of job applicants. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but either am I going to say you're never going to win the lottery.
Right.
So all of these efforts, and again, I'm hoping that when you hear that, when you think about that, or any of your listeners are thinking about what it means to press that apply now, I want you to think, I just pissed away a half an hour of my time.
Wow. So how do you move people from, wow, that's a depressing stat, to there's hope for me?
So the opposite of that, here's the separate list of stats, metrics, proof points, is that when you are a referred candidate, so I say, hey, TJ, guess what? I think that you should talk to this person and this person over at the company because, I remember hearing that was on your target list, or I know that this is like, I know you're a fan of, XYZ brand.
Yep.
Once that introduction is made and you have a compelling reason why you are there to change their business and solve their problem, that referral typically lands not only in a quarter of the amount of time, but they know that person is more valuable to the organization. Your chances are literally about something like, I think it's like 56 or 57% higher of landing. So you just took the less than 1% and you literally magnified it 57 times.
Wow.
But here's the catch. The catch. Everybody wants easy.
Yeah.
Right? They want easy. So they keep pressing the button, and then it works. It works like almost like a bad suit, right? Take it off. you can't take it off because you've built that habit of just thinking it's supposed to be like this. Building your network requires work. That's why it lasts as long. Nothing. No, you'll learn nothing when you press that button. You'll learn about everything you need to know from the people that are in your network, from the people who are going to support you, from the people you want to lift up that are going to call you in 3 years from now and say, hey, you know what, TJ? I remember the solid that you did with me and for me.
Yep.
Would you be open to talking, to us about such and such?
Yeah. So here's a question. For a lot of people, network becomes networking, which becomes ick in their brain, right? They picture crowded rooms with people, with name tags and awkward conversations. And I can hear that that's not what you're talking about, but for those who might feel stuck, like, I don't know how to do this. What are some of the ways you can get started building your network, but if you haven't really been?
Well, the easy one?
Yeah.
The easy freaking one? I mean, honestly, and this is where relevancy comes in. This is actually listed from LinkedIn and from LinkedIn CEO, Ryan Roslansky, is digital literacy. LinkedIn is a skill. Yeah. LinkedIn is where you're relevant. LinkedIn is open 24/7. It takes very little to get started. We have so many LinkedIn converters. The folks that put their hand up and said, hey, guess what? I don't do social media. I think LinkedIn is cringe. And what I say, you like paying taxes? Right. You like flossing your teeth? Do you like taking out the garbage and cleaning up dog poop? Right. It has to get done. And that's the heavy hand of it has to get done on LinkedIn. What I'm saying is you have a choice. The rest of the world is there. They're relevant. They're getting found. This is where decision makers are. This is where people are learning. This is where people are connecting. This is where the party is. And you're in a dark hole getting pissed off, eating ding dongs because, the job market isn't working out.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of folks react, like you mentioned, to LinkedIn or some version of it. I also think a lot of folks, what I notice is people are scared of it, the judgment, I think.
But is that real or is that perceived?
Well, I think it's perceived, but it feels real, right? Meaning I'm a VP of something and I want to put myself out there, but I'm sort of holding my identity together so delicately with a few stories that I keep telling myself. And I think the fear is if I go out on LinkedIn and people don't like my stories,
right, and I'm exposed,
or even speak against my stories, that my whole thing crashes down, and I don't know that there's
What's the worst thing that will happen if it does?
It's a good question. I think the fear is that you become as irrelevant as you could ever be. But I think what I hear in you is you're already irrelevant.
How is that bode for you as a leader? Knowing that you're going to have to learn new stuff in your job.
Right.
Knowing that you're going to get thrown at the last minute some crazy ass task that you've never done before in front of people who are reporting into you and the board breathing down your neck.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting because what I notice with a lot of people is, for whatever reason, they can handle that. Meaning, like, I'm used to that, but there's some mythology they create around LinkedIn, and either they believe that the people who are successful at it are kind of like what you said, like cringe, and they're just BSing their way through it and blah, 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 which there is some of that. Or they believe that they think they're so public in that space that the repercussions are so high. And it's the irony because you're actually so not public when you start. Nobody knows you at
There's a
all.
learning curve to everything. And I think that we as humans, when we confront something that could be exposing, our job search certainly is extremely vulnerable. I mean, I meant to tell you this in the beginning, but all of the clients that we work with are over 40. And all of them are, struggling with, my network has atrophied.
Yeah.
Don't know what to do on LinkedIn. I haven't been in the job market for double digits years. I spoke to a guy the other day, 27 years at IBM, wants to he's only had one job in the whole world. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate so much that you bring this to date, because in no way is this meant to be flip, but it's also meant to be clear that both can be true. You could do it scared, but don't do it alone scared and think that you did something wrong, or like you screwed up, or like the whole Lincoln universe is somehow looking at you and you're, I would definitely, I say this with the utmost sincerity. If you were in a job search, it's a team sport. Do it with other people who are doing it shoulder to shoulder with you and going through some of those awkward growing pains, or feeling like, wait a second, can I just practice this with you? Like, I think this sounds weird. Or what do you think about, fresh set of eyes on my LinkedIn profile? Or something that says, you know what? I think I know this person. Could you give me the backstory? So I'm not looking at something that's superficial or making some wild assumptions that aren't going to serve anyone.
That's an interesting concept, because I think for many people, they do feel alone in it. And alone with a lot of self-judgment. Like, why do I feel like I suck at this? Why do I suck at this? What happened? You talk about people who have moved past 40 and they've, I see this. I worked in advertising for 25 plus years, like people with brilliant careers. And I see them, and you can sort of feel the fear and the shrinking of them coming off the page as they look around and they go, how do I plug into this? And so when somebody shows up like that, what does working, kind of making it more of a team sport look like? How do you do that? And how do you help people get past some of the maybe resistance to that, along like, I don't want anybody to see that I'm struggling, kind of a thing?
So the first thing is, before we get into any of this, how we do it, all that really is required is that you want to do it. Right? Because if you don't want to do it, it won't happen.
Yeah.
But what I can share with you is that most folks that we work with know that they have another 10, 15, maybe 20, 30 years on the market.
Yeah.
And so this isn't just nice to have, this is survival.
Yeah.
This is not a maybe I'll get the rocky road, or maybe I'll get the strawberry. This is a serious decision about how they're going to feel fulfilled, support their families, how they are going to make a difference in the world, where their dreams and aspirations lie, how they are going to literally keep themselves stimulated. We know that the retirement age is blurring by the second. Blurring. Many people are like, I'm never retiring. That's me. Some people, you know what? I can't afford to retire. So I'm going to come out of unretirement.
Yeah.
Or come out of retirement because financially it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
Then what? Right?
Yeah.
Then what? Then you want to work. You don't know necessarily what it is. So first thing, as I said before, do you want to? And not want to. Like when I talk to prospects, I'll usually say, like, where does this live on your rankings of priorities to do? If it's below an 8, You're
Yeah.
not there. You're not there yet. If it's an 8, a 9, and I'm scared, I'm like, we're right here. I'm right with you.
Yeah.
Totally on board you and bring you from end to end. And that's what our program is. My company, Portfolio Rocket, is an end-to-end solution. So come in, you understand what your why is. Your why is like literally, it is, I mean, I know people talk about it as your North Star and all that stuff. I want to say it's your horsepower, man. In the worst days, if you know that you're going to do that, OMG, are you kidding me? Who cares?
Right.
Like somebody run an Ironman or like a Spartan race, you think they're not scared?
Yeah.
No? But why are they doing it? Because they need to prove it to themselves. Because it was a challenge that they said that they were going to do, and they're going to do it. Do they know how? No. And how do I know this? Because I did my first Spartan race at 58.
Oh, wow. That's
I know
awesome.
that I was going to have to do a spear throw because I didn't watch the video before I did it.
That's awesome.
Right?
That sounds like how I would be. I would probably not have all the details and then be like, okay.
Okay, so what? Who cares? Like you're
figure it out.
You're doing it. You're doing what you said you would do. That's like, dignity and self-respect right into your bank account.
So, quick question. You mentioned, helping people figure out their why. How do you do that? Because I work with some folks around that, and I know there's different ways, but I think when people hear that, they think my why is going to be like to save the starving children or something like that. And I don't think that's what you're talking about. So what is that process?
I'm going to give you this framework because I think it's so powerful. So if you're listening out there, grab a pen, a paper, do whatever you need to do. Here it goes. So there's 2 variables in the why. The first one is your contribution. What is the contribution that you are going to bring either to the world, to this next company, in your job search? What is that contribution that when TJ comes into that room, that's the contribution I can expect, I can trust, and I know is essentially the area of ownership that is a non-negotiable with TJ. Yeah. So that's really important. Now, what I want to know is what is the impact of that contribution in that place. So in other words, if my contribution, which my contribution is to end career victimization, that's my overall contribution, is to end, that's what I'm here on this earth for, to end career victimization. Impact of that, oh my God. The impact of ending that is literally the ability to elevate yourself. It's the ability to accelerate your job search. And it's the ability to celebrate in your own life, in your own career. Elevate, accelerate, and celebrate.
I love the ending career victimization, that thing. I mean, I think it's so easy to slip into that role. In some ways it's we make ourselves so dependent on the external affirmations and things like that for whether we feel somewhat good about it or terrible about it. And so when the market's not as great as it could be, wow, we're all almost swimming in the victim mentality, right? And on one hand, I'm like, well, hard to blame people for getting there, but obviously not serving them, not serving anybody to be there. So how, what are some steps that help people start to realize that they can move from that to more of like a creative space, an ownership space?
So that exercise in and of itself is a huge unlock, right? Yeah. I don't know if you felt it in here. I've said it probably 100 different times. I mean, literally, And it was not an overnight kind of thing that got me there.
Yeah.
But once I got there, and once we help other people get there, it's a freedom. It's a huge freedom. And other things start to happen. So that's the first area. Now it's taking that idea, taking that concept, taking the context, and translating it into other touch points, right? How does this framework that I just shared, the why, ending career victimization, how does that and these other things of elevate, accelerate, and celebrate, how do those other things get executed or manifested in my why on every level? So, an example that I would share is I took that Spartan race. I had a video. I posted it on LinkedIn. Why? Because I talk to people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And gosh darn it, if I could do this at 58, so can you. So that's elevating, accelerating, and celebrating myself.
Yeah.
I'm an embodiment, and so are you, of whatever that why is. If I am promoting, so to speak, or I am standing in the space of the contribution is ending career victimization, but you better bleep and believe that I'm not going to be standing in my own victimization.
Yeah.
Those two things have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So you'll see me putting myself in not crazy, but very vulnerable situations. I do that because I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just another bozo on the bus, learning and growing in the process. Yeah.
I'm for some reason just fell in love with that phrase, the bozo on the bus. I really love that. But I also like what I'm hearing is this, like, to sort of put it as simply as I can, you're walking the walk for yourself, and you're modeling.
Totally. That's why nobody can take away your why.
Yeah.
Nobody can take this away from me. It's embodied in me. And that's what we want for you. That's what we want for every listener. That's what we want for every person that we talk to, whether we work with you or not. You can stop by my LinkedIn at any time, and you're welcome. And, not you're welcome. Right. I mean, you're welcome there. Yes. You're welcome there. And, no skin off my back, and, glad to have you. You don't want to stay? Great. Like, no problem. Yeah. But I'm not doing this for anybody. I'm doing it with people. And I think that there's a lot that we get to do and desuckify the process. And I've always said, I wish I knew how to get here a little earlier on in my life. No big deal. Yeah. But I think the aspiration is to skip to work on Monday or Sunday, whatever it is. Yeah. Crave that, but you got to get some skin in the game to get there.
Yeah. I think a couple of things are interesting there. One, I'm curious for you. Do you ever find yourself slipping towards the victim side, and do you have any tools or ways you can find yourself coming back into that, stepping more into your creative, empowered self?
Oh, yeah. It's the short answer to the first question.
Yeah.
It's the short answer.
Yeah.
So I fall into it, maybe not as much as I did before. I don't fall into it as much with my work as much as I ever used to. Where that comes in is the life of an entrepreneur is tireless. There's a lot to it. I have fortunately a team, but for example, if I go on vacation, I still feel like it's kind of like around there.
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't like fully disengage because that's my benefit. Or things like that, or sometimes when I am especially like when some software doesn't work out, And I'm just like, where's my help desk? There isn't one, things
Yeah.
like that. Or, just if somebody blows off a call, let's be honest. Somebody blows off a call and you're like, seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I personally turn to spiritual solutions. I'm a very woo-woo kind of person.
Okay.
And how it appears on the surface isn't really what it is. We just made up that story. So there's something larger at play. There's something bigger. The factual world as we know it, the physical and factual world, just a very, very, very small part of the reality.
It makes me think about, like, you use some good examples there that, if somebody blows off a call, your brain can go to, they don't like me. They don't want to work with me. I'm not good enough. Da, 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 da. And like, to recognize that that's all coming from this place.
It's very noisy. It's very noisy. And stay away from the negativity. Put yourself away from a lot of that doubt.
Yeah.
Stay in the place of certainty.
Yeah.
Once you get some footing.
Yeah.
Literally keep
coming back to
the roots and going like, you know who you are. Sure. I'll go through periods where we wonder, but that's just noise.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not real. It's
we make it real.
Yeah.
We can also make it unreal. and we have both, right? I have a dear friend who always says, for all the times that we're doubting, why don't we spend that much time doubting our doubt?
That's such a cool way of looking at it. And every once in a while I can get to that realization, but man, those doubts feel so damn real. They feel like capital T truth in the moment, right? And then you really have to find a way, and this maybe connects to you, maybe some of the spiritual answers or whatever your way of stepping back from a moment and really being able to see one without judgment, and to see sort of like remove yourself from the thing and get a little bit higher level view. That seems to be when you can figure out like, oh, that is noise. And I can choose to ignore it.
It's coming in by invitation.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, come on in. I got some coffee and some cookies. I just made them. They're warm. Would you like to stay for 2 hours and sit here and go on them? It's like, keep feeding this beast. And it's like, no way. Bye-bye. Here's the door.
I'm with you on that. As you talk about a lot of this stuff and the moving from the sort of victim to, more empowered kind of mentality, one of the things that I notice, and this is true for me, it's not just with others, but like we can be so afraid to take a chance on ourselves. And yet what I notice, at least for me, is I can be so damn confident in others. Like I can go, you should totally do this thing. You're perfect for it. Like your why is like screamingly visible to me. I know who you are. And yet when it comes internal for me, and I've seen it in others, it's like somehow we have this block. Do you have ways of helping people move through that block? I mean, I imagine it starts with some of the stuff we've talked about, but is there anything else that can help create that mindset shift?
I think the biggest mindset shift that I see with people and their clients is, and I had this, it's so funny. I had this yesterday. I was on the phone with a prospect and I said, what would you like to walk out of this call with? And I want to know how I can create, I don't want to keep going through all these different changes. I'm looking for some level of security. So I said, well, that I completely understand. But now my question to you is, so what are you going to do when I tell you that there is no job security anymore?
Mm-hmm.
That's gone. So you're chasing something that no longer exists.
Yeah.
The same way that you might be chasing a typewriter that has been replaced by a computer, that's been replaced by an iPad, that's been replaced by an iPhone, that's going to be replaced by, some other device.
Mm-hmm.
And so these ideas, again, not relevant, right? So, the name of the game isn't reliability, it's adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
So really anchoring yourself in some of the truths about what it is versus what we want. We're not here to change the way that evolution is showing up.
Yeah.
And there is right now a massive, massive gap between those that are clinging on to this belief system that there is a reliability, and I could use the metaphor of the gold watch or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I can't believe that I was laid off. And somebody said to me this same person said, I'm looking for reliability. I said, hold on a minute. 30,000 people were laid off between Thanksgiving and New Year's, some by text and some by email.
Yeah.
So if that isn't a signal, then it's going to be hard, and you can't change that. So, join the party, or go hang out, someplace else where you're going to see some kind of difference for you, because you're creating more of a gap than there needs to be. You need to be the mover, not the market.
It's such on the one level, it's like, wow, that's a harsh reality. But then underneath it, as I hear what you've been talking about, and as I think about, even what I've tried to help some of my own clients see, it's like the way to find something that feels like stability, for lack of a better word, is inward, not there. Like that stuff's a mess out there. It's a mess, and it's getting messier, to your point. But when you bring in the firm rooting of knowing your purpose, your why, what grounds you, and then being willing and able to adapt and bring that adaptability with you, there can be a growing sense of confidence, which can lead to at least an emotional stability around, like, whatever comes my way, I'm ready for it because I'm doing the things to make myself ready for it. So it's a shift of like expecting the world to slow down for you versus taking on the behaviors and the habits for yourself that allow you to move through that world with a feeling of confidence that can at least feel somewhat stabilizing. Do you see that in folks you work with, and do they see that change, that suddenly like any sense of stability is coming from here and not from some expectation?
Oh my, all the time. One of my favorite stories to share is a guy comes in right after he got laid off around Thanksgiving time, not this past Thanksgiving, the year before. He told me he wanted to become Brad 3.0. He just fresh off of a divorce, in his 50s, engaged, and his fiance said, please do not tell anybody that you've been laid off. I don't want my to know. She was kind of projecting some of her fears onto him.
Yeah.
And he was in a little bit of a state, right?
Yeah.
And while he is in his state, he's also telling me, I go to Orange Theory 4 times a week. I break records. I went to this school, and, I started this club. I did this, and this. So these two things are not like, there is crossover, But
Yeah.
when you're in that place, it's easy to think that none of that is there and that the outside world is going to just absolutely swallow up all of that goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually went through, I repeated what he just said to me. I said, these things, they're in you. You
Right.
created each and every one of these things. Nobody hauled your sorry butt to Orange Theory every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You did that. If you could do that, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so we forget. We need other people to remind us. We also need to build new muscles so we don't forget.
That's interesting. I mean, how does that show up in terms of the building new muscles?
The more challenges, and I don't mean like crazy challenges, I mean very smart, strategic challenges you take, you're building your confidence muscle.
Yeah.
We've all heard this. It's so cliche, staying in your comfort zone, that doesn't build your confidence.
Right.
It reinforces that you can't, rather than, something that I say even to myself, give your chance a chance. A chance already.
Yeah. It's so interesting because when you talked about the story with this guy going to Orange Theory and breaking records and doing all this stuff, what I notice in a lot of people, and I'm sure it's in me, and I notice it sometimes when I'm working with a coach, like we're so, like, we don't give ourselves credit for how we have overcome any particular challenge. And I don't know if it's some default setting that presumes like, if I can do it, it must not be that hard. But there's some story that feels like it goes around that like all those things I did, they didn't feel that hard. So therefore they must
now
not.
They don't, because they're in your rearview mirror.
You did them, right. Yeah.
Fine.
And so like we end up discounting all of the areas where we've moved through challenge. And then when there's a challenge that we're kind of stuck on, we think, well, I don't have the tools to navigate this. And yet it's like, you've been doing it.
It's new. It's new. Anything that's new is going to like smart in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh boy, like I'm, on sure footing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, everybody says that they want to grow until it becomes uncomfortable. And then it's like, thanks anyway.
I can both, I've seen that and externally and internally, so I can appreciate that statement. One of the things that I think of this on your website, you mentioned like focus on your fulfillment rather than the job search. And I thought it's a really interesting statement, and it feels rooted in truth, but I can also imagine for a lot of folks, it's like, yeah, but I really want a job or a better job. So how?
That's not how people. We're not here to help. If you want to find a job, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah.
Work with a recruiter, go work with, a job board that is a plug and play.
Yeah.
I say that with all the love in my heart, because if you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And that's more of the same.
Yeah.
And so I'm not here to help you just, match what you have. I'm really here to advocate for what you don't have, but want.
So somebody comes to work with you and maybe at first they think they want a job, but maybe let's just say they're open enough to say like,
I'll say that right from the beginning. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
And most people are not finding us to do that because I'm clearly not shy about saying who we are and who we aren't. It's very important also for your listeners, right? Please do not go out in the marketplace and say anything like, oh yeah, I'm open to anything. Because you'll be aligned for nothing. So it's okay to attract and repel. It's okay to do that. You're not missing out on anything. You're deepening down on the area that you're going to be able to impact the most.
You mentioned this concept of relevance a few times, and I also noticed this on your site. I thought it was really interesting. You had kind of a scale. I don't remember exactly, but from basically like irrelevant all the way up to, I think it was remarkably different. And I think for a lot of us, it's like hard to think of ourselves that way. It almost feels like, how could I, like, it's almost egotistical to be like, I'm remarkably different. What does that really mean? And what am I doing? If we're
Sure.
working together, what am I doing to unearth my remarkable difference?
Sure. I'm just going to put it in a little context so that people can hear. Where most people come in is I'm qualified.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm qualified means I've got the baseline skills.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody hires for I'm qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody who's applying believes that they're qualified.
Yep.
Right. So it's a self-selected audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you come in, you're qualified. The next step is to be different, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I have all the stuff. And then afterwards, I'm a little bit different.
Yeah.
But now I want to know, am I just hiring difference for difference sake? I'm hiring different so that you're going to be able to literally drive that point of difference through my company and stand out in a way that is going to, if you're different, that's good. But again, better is to be remarkably different. Unapologetically remarkably different. To be able to have a point of view. This is why people talk about thought leadership. Leadership, by the way, which could be anything. It could be comments. It could be being on a podcast like this. It could be writing your own content. It could be, doing something like going to an event and being on a panel. Those are leadership opportunities. They increase your price point significantly.
Yeah.
Significantly. Because people like leaders who have something to say.
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of folks, it's like the remarkable part is where there might be the sticking point, meaning what, and so is part of your process to help people see the things that they've never quite seen in themselves and then elevate that.
Also the way that they approach it. So remarkably different isn't looking at a website before you go on an interview. That's what everybody does.
Sure.
Right? Remarkably different is preparing what in our world we call 100, 200, 300 level questions, right? It's a very specific reason and way that we do this. So that the questions that you ask are reflective of your remarkable point of difference. Nobody else is going to ask that question. Yeah. It's not like, oh, tell me what a day in the life is like. Everybody uses that. Anything that's parody will be qualified. And remarkably different requires more intention, more work, more deliberate interest and care in what it is, the value of who you are and what you do, the fact that you're showing towards the company that you're interviewing with.
Yeah. So like for you, this kind of why of helping eliminate victimhood, career victimhood, that's the remarkable difference. That's what I hear. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not just, oh, I'm going to be remarkable on LinkedIn and then I'm done.
Right. This is what I do.
This is a hallmark and this is a stamp of who I am so that I can be a trusted person in the world that says, yeah, like this is legit. Like what you see here is what you get when we run into each other at coffee. Yeah. When I'm lifting others up behind the scenes and, maybe, wherever. I'm not doing it for a performance. This is the thing. So that is designed also to be shared with other people who want to tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear in that a little bit is if I'm hiring somebody and I can spot that they have this remarkable difference, it almost shifts my expectations of what this job could be, right? I might initially have been like, we need to bring someone in to do the things, and I want to find the person who can do the things the best. And suddenly you're like, oh, it's about something well beyond that. We can do so many things that I wasn't even thinking of.
Are completely nailing it. What else makes this so great is, and so what if I'm not an AI expert, but I'm remarkably different? You think you're going to like sit there and go, she didn't really score a 95 on her Python task.
Right.
Well, it's not going to, those things are, and we know this in 2025, and, have been doing a lot of studying with respect to LinkedIn, the economics of 2025. We're in an area right now where what will make us remarkably different are not that we are able to use Chat GPT. That's not a remarkable point of difference. Everybody knows right now.
Yeah.
But what makes us remarkable are the skills that AI cannot replace.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things. So how I say it is AI isn't coming to replace you. It's coming to reveal you. It's coming to help you actually be able to tap into the things that the AI will not be able to replace.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity, communication, collaboration, creativity, and or that I can't remember right here. But my point is that those things, you have over those. And that's what gets people hired, is being able to be adaptable and curious. How did we figure this out? Why is this? And if you can use your job search as a test bed to be able to exercise it, you're going to get hired fast.
Yeah.
That people are craving that, to not do the same old routine way of doing it and actually show your strengths. Don't tell me, show me.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like you're waking people up to a new level of possibility that I feel like the world needs so much of that right now, because I feel like there's a little bit of like feeling like we're sort of just sleeping a little bit.
We're good. I mean, I'm not the Messiah, and I don't want to be. Again, if you want this, all great. If you don't, no judgment. It's not no skin off my back. I just know my lane, and I know where we're making a difference. And I'm really like kind of geeked up and excited about it. It's a great 24. It's going to be a freaking fantastic 25. And I love what I do, and I want everybody else to too. So if I have a piece of chocolate cake, I'm not going to be eating it for myself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But I do think, I think what you're doing is just really, it opens the door for a lot more, for people to bring a lot more into what they do. And I think that's really cool. And I wonder, we've, gone through a lot of questions here. You have a question that we could kind of pose back to the audience and maybe get their perspective on as it relates to some of this stuff?
So your question to me is, what question do I want to ask your audience?
Yes.
In what context?
I guess in related to like, how they feel about their careers and what's possible.
Sure. I think the real question, the underlying question, is, I'm borrowing from Gary Vee. So sorry, Gary. What the bleep are you going to do with the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life? You're going to live a lot longer. My question is, so what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
What do you want to do about it? Because it's not, it's like this whole like kind of curmudgeonly thing. It's not going to serve you. Yeah. You're going to live longer. So you get to sit with it for longer than you had planned.
I like that question.
What do you want to do with the next 15, 20 years of your life? And don't let that be like, I don't know what I want to do for the next 20, 50. Use it metaphorically. What do you want to do in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? Yeah. I mean, all I know is I'm not wasting 1 second of it.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to let it kind of take you, as opposed to you taking some control over it, because there's so many things to distract us. It's so easy to kind of just go along for the ride. And so finding
another friend of mine on LinkedIn the other day, who's in the fitness business, says, excuses don't burn calories.
Yeah.
It's like, you can, and we're human. We all go through, oh my God, like millions. But that's not what matters. It matters the one that you're going to It's going to like kind of give you the opportunity to reinvent and recreate.
So if you could wave a magic wand and just fully desuckify people's work lives, what does that world look like?
What it looks like is putting your freaking big boy and big girl pants on and going and just doing it.
Yeah.
Just doing it. And really taking full on ownership for what it is that you're here to do. You didn't get here by accident, so you're not going to stay here by accident either, unless you choose it.
That's a really good distinction, because I don't think people think that that's a choice. Just sort of living, sort of like it's like an accident. Like that is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
It is. I think it just...
it's the world of free will here.
No, I know. I think it's almost like it can feel like a default setting as opposed to a choice sometimes, So even just recognizing no matter what we're doing, we've chosen it. And then going, which one would you choose? So I like to have a little bit of fun before we close out the episode. And I use a lot of sound effects in the show. I'm a cat guy, so you'll hear cat sounds sprinkled in the intro and outro along with some other sounds. Do you have a sound effect that you're up for making for this show?
I didn't know I had one until this request. And I realized that I do this. Nobody else know. I didn't know it, but people have called my attention to it. So I tend to do a little bit of the maybe not as long.
I like it.
Usually that's when I'm in deep thought, but my husband does tell me I do that in my sleep too.
Well, that means you're in deep thought.
It sounds like you're like deep thought.
I think what's interesting about that sound as you were doing it, it's kind of like, it feels a little bit like, to me, an invitation to dig a little deeper. Like, okay, there's something there. Keep scratching at that. What else is there? And it feels like
tell me more, right?
Yeah, which I love. That's awesome. I think we don't always go there. So to invite people to go there, I think is really cool. Well, the only other thing I always like to ask is, how can people find you online to just learn even more about the cool stuff you're doing for the world?
Shocking. I'm on LinkedIn. So we talk about it quite a bit. So
yeah,
you can always find me there. I like to say it's my other address. And I also have a podcast called Career Blast in a Half, and it comes every single Wednesday. And I bring, again, surprisingly, I blow away outdated career advice. Nice. And bring in some incredible guests who are helping to keep you relevant. And then I also, you can also find me directly at Loren at portfoliorocket.com. I don't spend a lot of time answering emails because I spend so much time on LinkedIn. So be your best bet. So definitely reach out to me there.
Awesome. Well, I will include all of those touch points in the show notes. And I just wanted to say thank you, Loren. This has been such a fun conversation, eye-opening, challenging in a good way, kind of gets you wake up a little bit and feel like you want to take charge a little bit more. So I love that energy that you brought.
Thank you so much, TJ. Have a great day. Don't desuckify. Or do desuckify.
I will do my best. Thanks. Right. Bye. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the DesuckifyWork Podcast. And a huge thanks to Loren for bringing life-changing insights to the show. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, rate, review, subscribe, or consider becoming a marine biologist, learning to communicate with dolphins and telling them all about the show so they can spread the word to annoyed tourists who just want to see them do a cool trick that they can share on TikTok. You can follow Loren on LinkedIn and check out her site at portfoliorocket.com. It's loaded with life-changing goodness. My site and my Substack newsletter can change your life too. I'm on a mission to make work suck less, and I'd love for you to join me. Want to make that desuckification happen ASAP? Let's set up a free half-hour coaching session. Bye, everyone.